Virgo, welcome to your February 2026 horoscope. My name is Adeana. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and in this video, I will be going over all of the energy you will be navigating for the month ahead. Now, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you align with my energy and enjoy my content. Let's get right into it. So, I do break these horoscopes down by week, and I select a chart for each week to give you a bit of a visual. So the first week of February, as soon as we come into the month on the 1st, we have our full moon in Leo at 13 degrees. This is going to be the last lunation in Leo that's not an eclipse for the next 2 years. In July, we have the nodes entering Leo and Aquarius, which will then shift and change those areas of our life up. I will be posting a separate forecast going into the nodes being in Leo and Aquarius, what that can bring, and touching on each rising sign as well. But Virgo, you've been going through massive changes. We've had the South Node in your first house and the North Node in your seventh. So, I mean, yeah, it's going to be nice to finally get out of that energy. However, we're not quite done yet. But what you can with this full moon in Leo, this is lighting up your 12th house. And the 12th house rules things, people, places that are hidden, like hospitals, asylums, retreat centers. The 12th house also rules self-undoing, self-sabotaging, escapism, where you can get in your own way. The 12th house is very karmic. The 12th house can rule past lives. So there's quite a lot in that 12th house, but usually energy in the 12th house tends to be suppressed a bit. The full moon in Leo can actually be a culmination point of something that was started at the time of the new moon in Leo 6 months prior. But yeah, just so you know that this is going to be our last lunation in this area of our chart that is not an eclipse for 2 years. And eclipses usually bring in some pretty big sudden changes. Now, on the 3rd, we have Uranus stationing direct. We've had Uranus up here in your ninth house in Taurus, and your ninth house rules higher education, higher knowledge, long distance travel, philosophy, belief systems, religion. And so I'm pretty sure that over the last 8 years, you've gone through a lot of changes in those areas of life, maybe with your belief systems, or maybe going back to school or taking a course at some point throughout that time, maybe deciding to travel more or less. Either way, Uranus usually enlightens a certain part of our life, wherever it's transiting. Now, with this station, this doesn't, there may not even be anything big. I think we'll feel this more collectively. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting weather things this month and storms, especially once we get to the end of the month and we have the Mars square to Uranus. But what this can do is if whatever you have been navigating the last, I would say, year or so, since Uranus has been moving back and forth over these degree points, is there may be something that clicks or just something more to that story that kind of comes in at the time of the station. Um, on the 5th, we've got Mercury squaring Uranus. So we've got all this energy in your sixth house of work, health, and daily routine. So there's quite a lot of energy as we come into the month. Like when we started January, there was a lot of focus on the fifth house. We had all these personal planets in the fifth. Now we've got all the personal planets in the sixth. As we move through February, they're going to shift from the sixth house into the seventh. But coming into the month, there may be a lot of focus on maybe work routine, your daily routine, pets, what you do on a day-to-day basis, your nutrition habits, health. When Mercury squares Uranus, that's when we can get some sudden information, or because Mercury is your chart ruler, there might be something very sudden coming in, possibly around your body or your mindset too. Like you could get sudden information, sudden communication, have like some interesting conversation with somebody that brings in some tension of some kind. You could experience anxiety. I mean, squares can bring some tension and challenge. So we do just want to be careful with Uranus. Uranus rules the electrical systems in our body. So Mercury being your chart ruler, literally kind of representing you, squaring Uranus can maybe bring like some anxiety this day or an overactive mind, which us Virgo risings kind of struggle with, I think. Well, maybe some don't. I guess it all depends on your Mercury placement in your birth chart. But not I think a lot of Virgos tend to like overthink things, and this could be a day that it's just at its peak. On the 6th, we've got Mercury entering Pisces. So Mercury is going to enter your seventh house, and there will be more focus on maybe relationships and one-on-one connections. This could even be like client work. It's all your really close one-on-one connections, business partners. It doesn't just represent relationships, but it is the house of relationships too. Now, once we get to the 8th, we've got Venus forming a square to Uranus. And so Venus rules your second house of money and finances. And so there might be something unexpected showing up around this time, around a bill or something financial you're having to address that's kind of unexpected, maybe forgetting to pay a bill or maybe something around debt. Okay, now let's get into the second week of February. So on the 10th, we've got Venus entering Pisces. So again, bringing more focus to that seventh house. On the 11th, we've got Mercury entering shadow. So Mercury is going to station retrograde on the 25th of February. But when Mercury reaches the degree point that it's going to retrograde back to, usually going forward, so between the 11th and the 25th, when Mercury stations, whatever is showing up around relationships, one-on-one connections, or even your career and the direction that you're moving in your career, anything that you're kind of that's coming in or you're having to address, that can give you an idea of what you will be revisiting and reevaluating during the Mercury retrograde. So definitely pay attention to what is showing up. On the 12th, we will have Mercury forming a conjunction to the North Node. I love when we have planets conjunct the North Node. Yes, it can amp up energy, but the nodes are very fated and very karmic. And whatever you've been navigating with this whole nodal journey in your first and seventh house, this is where you could have a really important conversation or receive some really important information that can help you navigate whatever it is you've kind of been moving through the last year with the nodes in the first and the seventh house. Um, on the 13th, we have Saturn entering Aries. So we begin that whole shift with, well, actually, that begins. Neptune enters Aries January 26th. So as we come into the month, we've already got Neptune in Aries. Make sure you check out that forecast if you haven't, where I get into the Neptune and Saturn energy in Aries and I get into all 12 rising signs. That'll give you a good idea of how this energy can show up for you. But this is your eighth house of your partner's finances, money coming in from outside resources, taxes, inheritance, psychological healing, and transformation. There's quite a lot packed in that eighth house. The eighth house can represent our deepest fears. It's the house of intimacy. It's the house of secrets. It's the house of deep transformation. So there is a type of reset going on. Saturn in the eighth house. Again, it all depends like on your relationship with Saturn, but Saturn is at fall in the eighth house, meaning that Saturn doesn't necessarily like to be in Aries. And so Saturn can bring some challenge or limitation to this area of life where maybe you're having to become a little bit more mature, a little bit more responsible with finances or loans or debts, or again, this may even have to do with your partner's finances. Either way, though, Virgo, you're going through some deep psychological transformation of some kind over the next couple of years, and it really all starts now. Now we get to the third week of February, and on the 16th, we've got the Sun squaring Uranus and Mercury forming a trine to Jupiter. So the Sun squaring Uranus, this can be the sun's going to be in your sixth house at this time, forming a square to Uranus. Like this is where I usually say, whenever we have the sun connect to Uranus, like Uranus can just bring an overactive mind, which I kind of already explained, or anxiety, because the sun's in your sixth house, there might be something coming in that's unexpected around um Oh, I actually even too just got health because Uranus is the ruler of your sixth house as well, the modern ruler. So you may even have to address something around work, And the sixth house is the labor that you put into work. So your career is in the 10th, but the labor that you actually do in your routine at work is in the sixth. And so there might be something around that you're having to shift, or your health or nutrition, or even your dog, animals, pets are in the sixth house as well. Um, I do think, again, this is going to have to do with like our weather, like collectively. I think this Uranus is bringing a lot of interesting weather things this at these last degrees of Taurus, especially too because Neptune's in Aries, and then we're going to have Mars, which is dispositing now, like that Saturn-Neptune energy. So these Mars transits are going to feel a lot different. Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting, and I think when Mars kind of forms that square to Uranus at the end of February, we're gonna have a lot of interesting weather things, storms, possibly earthquakes. All right. And then on the 17th, we've got the solar eclipse in Aquarius at 28 degrees. And so this is where you want to pay attention to kind of what is coming in. And now with eclipses, like this isn't just a one day thing. This can be a couple weeks before, a couple weeks after, whatever is kind of showing up around work, health, and daily routine that you're having to navigate, or pets. That's really going to give you an idea of the changes going on in this area of life over the next 2 years. On that same day, we're going to have Venus forming a conjunction to the North Node. So I do love that because, again, that's when you can run into somebody very fated. And I'm sure for some of you, you will. This can be a very fated, very karmic event when it has to do with one on one. Connections and relationships. There can also be like just a powerful conversation, insight, or just intuitive download too. These are days you just want to pay attention, like, and just be more aware of what is coming in for you, whether it is, thoughts, conversations, information, something you're seeing, something you're hearing, something you're feeling, because they tend to be quite significant. Even if they seem insignificant at the time, they tend to be quite significant down the road. On the 18th, we've got the Sun entering Pisces. And then on the 20th, we've got the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. So that's going to be quite powerful. I also want you to keep in mind that Saturn rules your fifth house of children and creativity, your hobbies, your interests, what you do for fun. And so that area of life is going to be going through some change as well, and can experience possibly some limitation, restriction, or more responsible, mature energy having to be placed within those themes and topics. We also have on the 22nd Venus forming a trine to Jupiter. Oh, and again, watch that other forecast because I get a lot deeper into what this can bring collectively over the next couple of years to a decade. But either way, I mean, we're all going through a rebirth, a reset of some kind, and it all starts now. So on the 22nd, we've got Venus forming a trine to Jupiter, which I love because it's like this really positive energy and in the middle of chaos. Venus is in your seventh house, forming a trine to Jupiter in your 11th. So this could be maybe a possible friend becomes it turns into a relationship, or maybe a friend helps you out with something. Jupiter is retrograde, so it could even be something shifting and turning internally. Like maybe you're developing a better understanding around something, because Venus rules your second house of money, finances, and material possessions and personal values. Excuse me, are in that second house as well. This just to me seems like a really positive shift of some kind, whether it's psychologically, emotionally, um, or physically, literally. It's something really beautiful coming in, something really supportive. Then we get to the fourth and final week of February, and on the 25th, we've got Mercury stationing retrograde in Pisces. So, again, whatever you've been navigating up until this point, especially around relationships, there's going to be a reevaluation period of this, something you'll be revisiting. You may have even had some really intense conversations with a partner at around this time, like the month of February, with this energy. There may be something even to weighing on you pretty heavy because of the eighth house energy that you're having to address or take action on, or just um kind of solve. because it's just a heaviness that's showing up for you that you're having to kind of move through and navigate. On the 27th, we've got the Sun conjunct the North Node and Mars square Uranus. So the Sun only forms a conjunction to the North Node once a year and the South Node once a year. However, the Moon forms a conjunction to the North Node once a month and the South Node once a month. And the nodes primarily work with the Sun and the Moon. And so, yes, when the personal planets are forming a conjunction to the nodes, it is very faded and can bring in some really powerful insight. But when we have the sun or the moon connect to the nodes, it's even more powerful. And so I look at the sun forming a conjunction to the north node, whatever you've been navigating the last year or so around you and your one-on-one connections. There's something really beautiful, really powerful coming in at this time to help support you in some way, or there's a really powerful shift in either something you've been navigating or the new direction that you're moving into. So definitely pay attention on this day to what is showing up for you. And then with the Mars square to Uranus, again, I think this is where we're going to see a lot going on collectively with the weather, storms, earthquakes, things like that. I also think this can show up more with the stuff that we're seeing like go on in Minnesota, riots, people standing up for rights and freedoms and beliefs. I think that's going to amp up at this time in our own personal life, whatever is weighing on you psychologically, whatever has shown up for you. And sometimes Saturn in the eighth house can bring up like fears of some kind, even fears that we never thought we had. It's very psychological and it's actually really interesting. But the stuff that Saturn does bring up for you over the next 2 years, just remember it is so that you can navigate through it, let it go so that it doesn't weigh you down anymore in some type of way, even if it's all subconscious. So Mars forming a square to Uranus, there might be something very sudden, or maybe this is the event or the shock that really kind of opens that up for you and activates that fear. And I'm sure for some of you it will be that. This can also show up in ways of health, pets, something at work. So just a day to be mindful. On the 28th, we've got Venus forming a conjunction to Mercury retrograde. So again, this is going to be something that whatever you've been navigating around communication and relationships, whatever you've been sitting with, whatever you've been reevaluating, there's something else to the story. There's more to the story coming in, whether that looks like another a powerful conversation or important conversation, or just some support of some kind coming in. Um, yeah, that's another day where even too, if you have a really important conversation, this could be a day where you're having a hard time processing things. And also because of the Mercury retrograde, we just want to be careful that we're not misunderstanding things or that people are not misunderstanding what we're saying. And then also on the 28th, we've got Mars activating that eclipse point. So we on the 17th, we had that Aquarius eclipse at 28 degrees. Well, on the 28th, we're going to have Mars reach that 28th degree and activate that eclipse point. Now, I think this can be felt more collectively than individually, but if there was anything that you were moving through, there can be like another activation of that. So it's just another thing to kind of be aware of. All right, Virgo. Well, I hope this helps you navigate the energy for the month. This is the month that all changes. This is where the shifts start and the rest of the year is nonstop. So I hope this helps you navigate the energy for this month, and I will connect with you in the next one.